Hello, Gov Seekers. What's up? Let's get that dialed in. How's everybody doing? It is episode 145 today. It is a little as 5:02 p.m. Pacific time, 8:02, now 8:03 on the East Coast. Hello, everybody in the chat. Holly Horn is our moderator. Thank you for everybody who's here in the chat, watching on Lee's YouTube and my YouTube, and of course over on the Rockfin. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell. Oh my goodness. All right. We have an exciting show. Share this out on your social media. And I don't know. Let's. What do you think? What do you think we do it? What do you think? We just do it? What do you think? We just go? Want to do it? Gesundheit, someone put in the chat. Thank you so much. All right, let's do it. Hold on. All right, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Government Secrets episode 145 with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood.
Can we back up? Do you drink your water out of a Tour de France squirt bottle? Is that what we're saying here? Is that your standard day?
Yes, Lee. I view every day like I'm in the Tour de France. Yeah, that's what I take when I go cycling. That's what I take when I work out or go to yoga. This is my all-in-one bottle.
Just because, just drinking water out of a glass doesn't propel it hard enough down the throat, I've found.
I want the water basically punched into the back of my throat.
I want the water to actually be forced out of my dick at the same time that I drink, just simultaneously through the whole system and out. It's the only way you can drink the 900 quarts a day that I drink.
Yes, if that's the only way to do it. I just sit there and go while I'm
just screaming and pissing and screaming and pissing.
That's the most of my day is just screaming and pissing all day.
I mean, you're in LA. It sounds like an LA thing.
Have you tried the new screaming and pissing diet? It's amazing.
Listen, but you just drink 17 gallons of water a day.
Yeah. I learned it from my Krav Maga teacher.
Yeah. How's your Kristnika going?
How's my what?
Kristnika. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Oh, it's fantastic. I've been selling all three of them simultaneously.
Good.
Yeah.
With a lot of screaming as well.
A lot of screaming, of course. Just it's his birthday. Yeah. All I have is one string of lights in my apartment. I don't have like a tree or anything.
So we have several birthdays around my 2-year-old and my partner both have birthdays like at the beginning of December. So, and he doesn't even really understand what a birthday is. He's starting to get it, but he doesn't really know what it is. And so it was like candles, birthday, presents, and then 2 days later, candles, birthday, presents, and then 2 days later, 4 days later, something, we lit the candles for Hanukkah. And we're like, hey, buddy, Hanukkah, we light the candles. And then he goes, happy birthday. And then I added Jews. Happy birthday, we Jews.
Is that a traditional Hanukkah ceremony? Is happy birthday, Jews?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what did you do for Christmas? Did you light something and say happy birthday, Jesus?
We lit a tree on fire. That's what we did. We did a tree that's like about this big. It's a little
Nice.
It's the idea of a tree.
I'm a firm support. I had one of those for years. I had about it was like a foot or so, and you just plugged it in and already had lights in it. And that was my that was my go-to tree for years. And
But
then
it didn't make one of the moves.
it did make one of the moves.
Or did Christmas wrong you at some point? You're like, fuck you, tree.
Yeah, Christmas has wronged me on numerous occasions, so I just was like, we're done. We're done Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas is cruel to a 2-year-old because he sees all the ornaments on there and he thinks they're toys. And we're like, no, they stay there. They just hang in front of you and you never get to touch them.
I went to a Christmas party Monday, obviously Christmas. And when I came home, I watched probably for 15 minutes just videos of cats jumping on Christmas trees and destroying them. That's how I just watched, just jumping on trees. The tree small, the cat just ruining. And I loved it. I couldn't get enough.
I have no problem with that. I think it should be part of the tradition.
Just these cats launching themselves onto the top of the tree.
What is their aim? Is their aim to knock over the tree?
Yeah, I think they're just like, cats are like, no, nothing's getting more attention than I am. So I'm going to go knock this thing out.
Yeah.
So they just like decided to take it out. And plus it's a thing that's shaking and shining. You know what I mean? Like there's like, they got to attack it. They don't know what's going,
If I see something shaking and shining, I just tackle it, which I'm not allowed in most strip clubs anymore. But.
The male strip clubs, they still let me in for that. They'll let me tackle the shanky, shiny guys there.
Oh, nice.
Because, yeah. Well, they oil us all up and then people throw money at us. So it ends up being quite profitable for me.
That's good. It's good to hear you do children's parties.
Guess what, boys and girls? It's the thunder from down under or whatever. Just so
that's what's next in my career.
Well, who's got the most fun segment today, buddy?
I mean, I always like a lot of death and destruction. Mine is not epically long this time. So if we're going by length, and no, do not do that's what she said. Anybody in the chat. I don't think, yeah.
We should go by
yours might be. I don't know. I mean, actually, I will say this. Mine actually, despite the title, has 0 murders.
Mine's pretty death heavy. Yeah, I have a big naval explosion that kind of blew up a whole port town.
I know a taco place like that. Yeah, a big naval explosion. It's not good.
But if you eat the whole thing, you get a hat.
True. Sombrero. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do mine first. But I love it's such a charm of the show. We've tried to do pre-production meetings and they didn't stick, and we've just like, nah.
No, the pre-production is you and I start the show, and then we decide who has more people dying in theirs.
So the fans really get to see the pre-production meeting.
The first 10 minutes is pre-production.
It's pre-production meeting. There's the only thing they don't see is the email that just goes, I'm going to cover this thing. And then I'll go, oh, cool. I'm going to cover this horrible thing. Yeah. And then
I think now we should start adding a second 10 minutes. So from 8:10 to, well, for me, 8:10 to 8:20 is us photoshopping the image we're going to use. Just let everybody watch that.
Yeah. Just one of us clearing out our spam folder so we can get to the other emails. Yeah, well, I'll do mine first. It's pretty blow 'em uppy. You know what I'm saying?
I like blow 'em uppy.
Where is it? Here we go.
Episode 145, segment number 1.
I will say, I hope no one in Texas made a poor decision.
Well,
am I going to be disappointed?
I decided to just search naval disasters, and I got a top 10 naval disasters list, nice. Which is fun because now I have some.
And of the top 10, 9 were in Texas.
There's I could have gone back to as far as like I think 1905, and this list I found was all different countries. So I just wanted to find good old US of A because obviously our
Right.
disasters are better than everybody else's.
Past disasters. We're number one.
We're number one in naval disasters. And don't you forget it, rest of the world. So this is the Texas City disaster. This was now this is where Wikipedia does its thing, right? So they call this was an industrial accident that occurred on April 15th, 1947 in the port of Texas City, Texas, located in Galveston Bay. It was the deadliest industrial accident in U.S. history and one of the largest non-nuclear explosions.
Oh my God. What year was this?
1947.
Okay.
But
that's great because it's like right after World War II, everyone's like, thank goodness, no more large explosions.
Oof, we're done.
We're done with that.
So the first paragraph or so of the Wikipedia is like, oh, it's an industrial accident. But as we dig deep, we'll see. No, it was a U.S. naval ship, and then some great stuff that happened in the years following with our great court system. We're gonna just great. There's just great stuff, making us all feel safe. The explosion was triggered by a mid-morning fire on board a French registered vessel, the USS Grand Camp, docked at the port, which detonated a cargo of 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate. This
2,300 tons.
Yeah. This started a chain reaction of fires and explosions aboard other ships nearby and a nearby oil storage facilities, ultimately killing at least 581 people, including all but one member of the Texas City's volunteer fire department.
Where is Texas City?
It's down near Galveston, so it's on the bay, the Gulf side of
right.
Galveston's a big port town.
Laziest city naming I've ever heard. They're like, just add city to the state. Who gives a shit? I don't care.
Doesn't matter. Just whatever.
Can we go get a drink? Just say state city.
Whatever. City state. Make them next to each other. I don't care. It's like, and there's a couple of cities in east of LA. One's called Claremont. One's called Montclair, and they're right next to each other. And it's the most confusing thing that's ever been done. So this the disaster drew the first class action lawsuit against the United States government on behalf of almost 8,500 plaintiffs under the 1946 Federal Tort Claims Act. I'm going to get into that in a second. We're going to go into the
8,500 people were impacted.
Yeah, 8,500 people. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you had, as I said, there was 581, at least 581 people killed, but the number gets bigger and bigger. So,
right. But killed doesn't count the people who've had their junk blown off or, nipples shot a half mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there was there was like 800 missing people on top of that. That was the confirmed deaths. There's people that just went missing, meaning they, were in the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico.
In unrelated news, 800 people left town and we don't know where they went today.
At the exact time of the explosion, 800 people fled for finer, sunnier shores.
Yeah.
They went to California City. So the smoke was spotted around 8 a.m. on April 16th, and the cargo hold of the Grand Camp, when she was still moored, longshoremen used a gallon jug of water and 2 fire extinguishers, but they had no effect, and the cargo hold filled with smoke. They were then ordered to leave. At this point, the captain of the Grand Camp ordered that no water be used, lest the cargo be ruined. Didn't want to ruin the cargo because in addition to the ammonium nitrate, there was like coffee and wheat and all this other stuff, right? There was tobacco, some small arms ammunition, and engineering equipment and cotton. And the ammonium nitrate, which was either as fertilizer or an explosive, was manufactured in Nebraska and Iowa and shipped to Texas City by rail before being loaded on.
Everything you listed sounds like shit that would be shipped to Texas.
Right. Just
Guns, ammonium nitrate, coffee, some whiskey.
ammo. So they saw the smoke. They tried the water, a gallon jug of water and 2 fire extinguishers, which did not work. And
But
then
do you realize you said like 10,000 tons of ammonium nitrate or whatever the hell it was, and they used a gallon jug of water? Like, well, 1 gallon of water put that out. Just 1 gallon.
I don't want to waste water. So let's just use, I think 1 ought to do the trick, you know?
Ought to do it.
Yeah. So then the captain of the Grand Camp did not want to ruin all this expensive cargo. So he ordered hatches sealed and the hold to be filled with steam in an attempt to smother the fire. This was unlikely to be effective as ammonium nitrate is an oxidizer, thus neutralizing the extinguishing properties of steam. The steam may have actually contributed to the fire, but by converting the ammonium nitrate to nitrous oxide while augmenting the already intense heat on the ship's hold, around 8:30.
Am I dumb? I didn't even know steam put fires out.
It sounds like it didn't. So
sounds like I'm right.
You might be on the money there, Lee. So after this genius plan, and they sealed everything up around 8:30, then it exploded and hatches got blown off. So what the captain actually created a bomb rather than just put out the fire. He made it into a bomb.
Seal everything off, fill it with steam, superheated gas, and let's see what happens.
And let it just blow up. So
that'll stop it. Yeah.
That's making fires actually explode always puts them out. If you're ever in doubt, Lee, a column of yellow-orange smoke billowed out, which is the typical color of nitrogen oxide fumes. And the responding departments included the Texas City Volunteer Fire Department and Republic Oil Refining Company firefighting team. At 9:12, the ammonium nitrate reached an explosive threshold from the combination of heat and pressure. That's when the Gantt camp detonated completely, causing the destruction within 2,000 feet throughout the port. Everything got destroyed, right? The blast produced a 15-foot tsunami and a shockwave leveling nearly 1,000 buildings on land.
15-foot tsunami. Jesus.
Yeah. Among the buildings destroyed was a Monsanto chemical plant, killing 145 of its 450 workers.
I have a tough time believing they weren't somehow responsible.
They threw a
chemical plant.
Something. Flying shrapnel resulted in the ignition of refineries and chemical tanks along the waterfront. Falling balings of burning twine from Grant Camp's cargo added to the damage, and her anchor was hurled across the city. So imagine just a fiery anchor just being catapulted across the city.
But there was enough dolphin meat for everyone.
Yes, everybody got
exciting.
Fresh dolphin meat. Everybody just held out their hat and dolphin meat felt it.
Just landed in pre-cooked dolphin meat, landed right in the hat.
Perfectly cooked. Just two sightseeing airplanes flying nearby were blown out of the sky.
What in God's name? This is seriously a nuclear explosion.
Yes. That's why this is the biggest non-atomic explosion that has happened. While 10 miles away, half of the windows in Galveston were shattered. The explosion blew the almost 6,350 short tons of the ship's steel into the air, some at supersonic speeds. The official casualty estimates came to a total of 567, including the crewmen who remained on board. But
the first mate was found in Minneapolis.
yeah, one of the guys is literally still circling the globe today, and he's they're trying to get him to land.
He ended up in orbit. There's one dude in orbit. He's not doing well, honestly.
Yeah. We've been trying to send him some food, but it's been a little tight. It's been a little tough up there the last 70 years. The first explosion had set the ship, the High Flyer, free from its moorings, and it had drifted across the harbor, coming to rest against the SS Wilson. So the High Flyer got set on fire and then came to rest next to the SS Wilson.
And from then on out, it was called the High Flyer.
Yes. And there was smoke of burning oil. In the afternoon, 2 men boarded the High Flyer searching for injured crew members. They noted that her cargo was ablaze and reported it to someone at the harbor front. This message seems to have gotten unheeded for several hours until it was realized that this indicated a serious problem. At about 11 p.m., did tugboats try to get the High Flyer away from the docks. Despite having cut her anchor, they were unable to move her. They fled the area around 1 a.m. 10 minutes later, at 1:10 a.m., the High Flyer exploded, killing 2 more people. According to some people, the explosion was more powerful than the Grand Camp. The casualties were light on that second explosion because the docks had already been cleared. But the second explosion exacerbated the damage to nearby ships and buildings. The blast destroyed the USS Wilson B. Keene. The steel frame of High Flyer had been heated until glowing, and these chunks rained down upon Texas City, setting mass fires.
See, if we had a modern day Bible, this would be one of the Bible stories.
Well, this is like frogs, like coming down from the sky. I mean, this is like
and mass rain down on the people.
So, you'll love this next part of it. One of the propellers was blown off and subsequently found nearly a mile inland, in a memorial park near the anchor of the Grand Camp. They keep calling this an industrial accident.
Industrial accident. Yeah.
Of the dead, 405 were identified and 63 have never been identified. An additional 113 people were classified as missing, for no identifiable parts ever found.
Yeah, I was thinking like everyone on or near the ship, there would just be nothing to identify.
Nothing.
You just find a buckle.
Yeah,
that'd be it.
More than 80 people were left orphaned or widowed. The victims' bodies quickly filled the local morgue. More than 5,000 people were injured, with 1,784 admitted to 21 area hospitals. More than 500 homes were destroyed and hundreds damaged, leaving 2,000 people homeless.
That's insane.
Now you see where the 8,500 person lawsuit came from, right? When you start adding these numbers up.
Yeah. Now that makes sense. And it's understandable that they don't really want us to tell us about this in our middle school history books about massive explosions. But I'm wondering if you go does Texas City still exist? If you go to Texas City, are there plaques around being largest explosion ever?
I was just reading there in one of the parks where the propeller landed there's a park now that has the anchor from the ship that got blown into the city. That's in a park. Like this is where the Grand Camp's anchor, and there's a plaque that tells the story. And
wow.
So over 1,100 vehicles were damaged. 362 freight cars were obliterated. The property damage was estimated at $100 million. That's 1947 which is a little over $1 billion today. $500 million of oil products were burned, which would be the equivalent of $5 billion today. A 2 short ton anchor of the Grand Cap, as I said, was hurled 1.62 miles and found in a 10-foot crater. It's now installed at a memorial park, as I was saying. The other main 5 short ton anchor was hurled a half mile to the entrance of the Texas City Dike. It rests in a Texas-shaped memorial at the entrance. Burning wreckage ignited everything within miles, including dozens of oil and chemical tanks.
The rudder was found a mile away inside Gary Jensen, who was not happy, to say the least. Not comfortable.
Yeah, he didn't like it. He didn't like having a
it.
propeller up his anus. Galveston was covered with an oily fog that left deposits over every exposed outdoor surface.
But oily fog is also the standard in Texas, so.
Yeah. Some of the damage were due to the destruction of subsequent burning of several chemical plants, including Monsanto and Union Carbide, oil storage, and other facilities near the explosions. Gee, I wonder why, it's funny, like, if this is 1947, but, today we could have green energy doing all of this, and there wouldn't be this, like,
risk
domino effect of just leveling a city. And
I'm always amazed when some shit like this goes down, and this could go for any disaster, any massive tragedy, and then like the next day is everyone like, well, guess we just go back to what we were doing, like back to shining the shoes and making the donuts.
And this is terrifying. Like, I'm in LA. There's the Port of Los Angeles. There's Long Beach. There's several oil refineries down there. I mean, this could happen here and just like destroy LA. So
there was the great breast implant explosion of 2010, I think, in Los Angeles that killed 14 people.
Yeah, and OnlyFans wasn't making money for 6 hours straight, which really crushed the economy.
OnlyFans went completely down.
Down.
Yeah.
And a bunch of influencers with fake boobs couldn't make 10 grand a day having sex on camera. Eventually 200 firefighters arrived from as far away as Los Angeles. Fires were burning for a week after the disaster, and the process of body recovery took nearly a month. The cause was never determined, and they say it was cited as human error. So this is let me go into the legal case to wrap it up here. There was legal case seeking compensation where combined into the Elizabeth Dalite versus the United States under the recently enacted Federal Tort Claims Act. On April 13th, 1950, the district court found the United States government responsible for a litany of negligent acts of omission and commission by 168 named agencies and their representatives in the manufacture, packaging, and labeling of ammonium nitrate. Yeah, you might want to label that as kind of hazardous.
It was labeled as mustache wax, so that was a bit of an issue.
Who knew mustache wax could blow up a city? This was further compounded by errors in transport, storage, loading, fire prevention, and fire suppression, all of which led to the explosions and the subsequent carnage. Oh, good. The court system stood up for regular people and held the government accountable. June 10th, 1952, the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals overturned this decision, finding that the United States maintained the right to exercise its own discretion in vital national matters. Oh,
they upheld the right to mislabel your shit.
That's national security, Lee. Stop asking questions. But then this got kicked up to the Supreme Court. And what do you think the Supreme Court did, Lee?
upheld the right to label 10,000 tons of ammonium nitrate as mustache wax.
That is correct. The Supreme Court affirmed the Court of Appeals overturning the decision on June 8th, 1953, in a 4-3 opinion, noting that the district court had no jurisdiction under the federal statute to find the government liable for negligent planning decisions, which were properly delegated to various departments and agencies. In short, the FTCA, this is the Federal Tort Claims Act, clearly exempts failure to exercise or perform a discretionary function or duty, and the court found that all the alleged acts in this case were discretionary in nature. In its dissent, the three justices argued that under the FTCA, Congress has defined the tort liability of the government and analogous to that of a private person. So that's part of the government secret here, is this tort act basically, and they used this case to say federal government can't be held responsible. It's not responsible.
Well, in saying it's like a person, that goes to show that the corporations or people thing actually goes back a long ways. I mean, obviously the U.S. government is not a corporation, but it's owned by corporations. So yeah, the corporations or people goes back to the 10s or 20s, and then the money is speech is what Citizens United was. But yeah, we have a long history of being like, no, the government and the corporations have all the rights of your average citizen.
So this horrific thing that killed 500 some people, 800 people went missing, 800 people lost family members, it affected over 5,000 people were affected, right? Well, 8,500 if you want to count all of the. And then that's when the courts should come in and hold people accountable, and they didn't. In fact, this case effectively empowered the federal government to do more shit like this and never be held accountable.
Yeah. And it is funny that like, oh no, they have all the rights of an average citizen or whatever. And it's like, dude, if an average citizen through negligence, set off a bomb that killed 500 people, I think you'd hold them accountable.
Right. Well, one of the judges that voted against it said a policy adopted in this exercise of an immune discretion was carried out carelessly by those in charge of detail, and that a private person would certainly be held liable for such act. A private person is held to a higher standard of care when carrying out inherently dangerous acts such as transportation and storage and explosives. But the federal government isn't. So that's really the Texas City fire is really the real government secret is the Federal Tort Act of 1947.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So that's
segment number 1. American government blows up its own citizens and cities and isn't held accountable. Woohoo! Segment 2. Here it comes.
Segment 2, the plan to kill 6 million Germans. And now I'll start off by saying this is more of an Israeli government secret than a U.S. government secret. But since Israel is a state in the United States, I figured this fits under government secrets. And also the fact that they're committing a genocide right now, which you and I have discussed on previous shows. I figured this was a good time to talk about this. The plot to kill 6 million Germans in the wake of World War II. And most of where I'm getting this is an article in slate.com. But there is an entire book by the author's last name is Porat, and it's called Nakam, the Holocaust Survivors Who Sought Full-Scale Revenge. But it actually does relate to what's happening right now with Israel, the way it's behaving, the genocide is perpetrating. And, some Israeli officials have called this the second Nakab, and
Nakba, you mean?
Sorry, Nakba. The The plot I'm going to talk about is called Nakam, but they're calling it the second Nakba, which means catastrophe. And the first one was 1948. So this basically the same time when the ethnic cleansing was first perpetrated and 700,000 Palestinians were murdered and a lot of land and villages were destroyed and everything. So in 1625, British philosopher Francis Bacon defined vengeance as a kind of wild justice. The more man's nature runs to vengeance, he wrote, the more ought the law to weed it out. And this is a story of hurt people hurt people. When you genocide a people, they then sometimes go on to become the monsters that they were fighting. After the war concluded, after the Holocaust concluded, some individuals harmed by Germans took matters into their own hands. One vengeful Polish militiaman who was barely out of his teens oversaw the murder of thousands of German civilians and prisoners of war, including as many as 800 children. Historian Dina Perat writes, there were Greek, Ukrainian, Slovak, French, Italian, Hungarian, and other citizens who, after being freed from the camps, refused to return home until they enacted their revenge. And you could say, I'll just add this, like, when you talk about revenge for truly horrific shit, it's easy to say, well, if that kind of stuff were done to my family, if my family had been killed, then I would want to just massacre everyone. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but that's why we don't write laws that way. You don't write laws from the standpoint of someone who's in a horrific, rageful state. Like, right. You write laws that are rational and are like, you can't just kill all the Germans because the Holocaust happened. Not all Germans were responsible for the Holocaust. And most people understand that, but some still go, well, if they killed my mom and my brother, I'd destroy a whole village. Like, well, yeah, that's not really a way to be a human.
So let's discuss that for a second. So if people who are like, hey, I get it, man, then okay, you understand where Hamas is coming from then, because Hamas is sitting there going, we didn't help the Nazis in World War II. You've killed us for no indiscriminate reason, or just any Palestinian that's like, you bombed me for no good reason, or somebody who, at age 9 saw their parents get killed and now they're 29 and they're like, I'm going to go fight Israel because you killed my parents. Like that's what it creates. Then if that's justifiable, then the reaction of Palestinians is justifiable. Right?
Right. But by the Israelis should go, oh, well, then it's fine for them to kill whoever they kill.
Yeah.
Although it does seem, as the more facts come out about October 7th, that it does seem that for the most part, they were not just killing everybody they came across. For the most part, it seemed they were attempting to fight IDF and take hostages. Now, I'm anti-war, so I'm against all of that, but it is different than just like, oh, let's see how many people we can kill. The buildings that were burned down, I mean, there's tons of evidence showing it was tank fire from IDF. So yeah. Anyway, that's a side note. So Nakam, which means revenge, or vengeance, tells the story of a group of survivors and partisan fighters who remained in Europe after the war's end, formed a clandestine group that they called the Nakmim Avengers, which means Avengers, and in response to the genocide of Europe's Jews, attempted to kill 6 million German citizens, men, women, and children, by poisoning the water supplies of major German cities and by delivering arsenic-laced bread to German prisoners of war. This was a real plot. This was not just an idea. The Avengers consisted of 50 Jews who had fought as partisans against their Nazi occupiers and who, after Germany lost the war, committed themselves to wreaking vengeance for the murders of their family and friends and the destruction of their civilization. It is impossible to imagine entirely the trauma and despair that motivated these Avengers, After the horrors they'd witnessed and endured under Germany's genocidal occupation, they were united by a certainty that the world as a meaningful, coherent place had ended forever, as it had the possibility of constructing a new life in the ashes of old. They described themselves occasionally as zombie-like creatures, no longer human, animated only by the drive for revenge. And if my thought on that is that's how we're seeing Israel act right now, is inhuman, is like zombie-like creatures who just want to obliterate people without any sense or ration, or I mean, that's what genocide is. It's completely irrational. It's irrational hatred and destruction. And we're seeing
it's viewing the group you want to commit genocide against, it's viewing them as less than human, like they're animals or they're just like cockroaches or whatever. That's part of it.
To try and justify it, you have to have all of that propaganda about them being cockroaches and non-human. And many people believe that the reason that so many people were okay with the dropping of the atomic bombs on the Japanese was because the Japanese, in many ways, differently from the Nazis and from the Germans. Now, there was plenty of hatred for the Germans in America, but they weren't called like inhuman. They weren't like, there were posters of Japanese looking like rats and things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really was a different style of propaganda. So as Avenger Poldek Wasserman, who later changed his name, put it, he said, instead of suicide, this quote, instead of suicide, after you arrived home and found that no one was left and the scope of the disaster was unbearable, came vengeance. Vengeance was a kind of suicide because afterward, there would certainly be no sense staying alive, which also is kind of poignant because Israel is writing their own epitaph right now. I mean, the apartheid state of Israel is creating their own end via this genocide.
Yeah. This is going to be the end. They're doing this to themselves.
So Abba Kovner was the leader of the Avengers. He was a partisan commander from Lithuania who had become one of Israel's most lauded poets. Also framed the group's plot as a suicidal response to a world that had become unlivable. Decades later, he said, quote, I will not claim that our thinking was far from deranged in those days, maybe worse than deranged. So he's saying he was acting and deranged. A terrifying idea made wholly from despair and carrying a sort of suicide within it. So the Avengers settled on two ways to accomplish their goals. And I find it fascinating to name the Avengers because the Avengers have committed a genocide against cinema. So there's a similarity there.
That's good you made that joke because I was just sitting here thinking, going, man, this segment should have gone first.
Feel free to make any fart noises you want, Graham. You can interrupt. You can break in any time. I don't know. I will say it's about to get a little bit funny, in my view. The Avengers settled on two ways to accomplish their goals. Plan A, the indiscriminate murder of 6 million Germans involved infiltrating and poisoning the municipal water systems of major German cities. Plan B, the mass execution of SS and Gestapo veterans, took a similar shape with a plot to deliver poisoned bread to Allied POW camps. But how to procure the necessary poison? So they had one plan to kill everyone that they could, and they had one plan to kill the officers. Now, with the murder of the officers, I'd have a tough time standing up against that one.
I'm sort of like that one. That's like, all right. I mean,
I'll look the other way. What's over there?
Yeah, you know what I mean? You guys want to bring in some bread for these guys? That's cool. Let's set up a table.
All the bread you want. Oh, that bread's on fire. Okay, bring it in. Yeah, it's fine. In August 1945, Kovner set sail for the Jewish community of Palestine, then under British colonial administration, to find the support the Avengers would need. So at this time, 1945, it's Palestine, but there are a lot of Jewish settlements, or at least a few, and he goes to speak with some of them for help. the author shows that Kovner willfully misled. So I don't know if I believe some of this. It's this article. So granted, this is also Slate, but .com. But it seems a little bit like there's a bit of quiet liberal rewriting. I don't know for certain, but the author claims that that the Jewish community and the leaders she spoke to, which ultimately become the leaders of Israel. So she's speaking to the ultimate leaders of Israel when it becomes a state, but it's not Israel yet. And the book argues that Kovner lied to them and only gave them plan B, killing the SS officers. And the book argues that his lies eventually got them to support the Avengers operations, with the understanding that the poison would be used to kill only SS veterans and not German civilians. And let's see. So one of the guys who ultimately becomes Israel's fourth president, and his brother, his name is Katzir, last name Katzir, provided Kovner with a quantity of arsenic sufficient to kill 10 million people. So here's the question.
What?
If they were just going for the officers, why did he give them enough arsenic to kill 10 million people?
Well, you might spill some, you know what I mean? Like you always want to have some extra arsenic lying around.
You always want a couple million.
Just a couple million extra doses of arsenic. Because you never know when you're going to need it, Lee. You know what I mean?
You never know. And, sometimes you put it in the tea and the wrong person drinks it. And then you got to move on to the next guy.
Yeah. Well, then if you do that, then the people who saw you accidentally do it, you got to kill all of them. So it's like it starts adding up.
It spirals. Yeah. It's 10 people. And then before you know it, it's 14 people. And now you wish you had 10 million doses of arsenic.
Yeah. And you're like, I only bought 1 million doses and here we go.
Despite his claims, Kovner intended to use this poison to fulfill the mission of killing German men, women, and children. So his goal, as he sets sail from Palestine to Germany, is to kill millions, hopefully 6 million, German citizens, many of whom either were just like, went along with World War II because they were afraid they'd be murdered for not going along. And then there's children who, had nothing to do with the Holocaust or anything. So that's his plan. As he reflected years later, I lied with a clear conscience. Not for a moment, even until now, have I had any doubt that plan A was correct and was a necessity. And while he was lying to the men who would soon run the state of Israel, an Avenger named Wilek Shenar, a Polish Jew who was his family's sole survivor, began working under a false identity at the water purification plant that served Nuremberg and formed a detailed plan to pump poison across the entire city. So he's working in the plant. So that's what I mean. This is not just an idea. This was not just them getting drunk on a Tuesday night going, what if we killed 6 million Germans? This is like he's working for months, if not years, at the water plant, preparing to put the poison in.
This is like the plot of the first Christopher Nolan Batman movie where they poisoned the water, made everybody in Gotham go nuts. Only this actual one is way more evil.
Yeah, the original Batman was titled Nakam.
Nakam Gotham. That's what it was called.
Yeah. On December 14th, 1945, Kovner set sail for France from Egypt, identifying himself as a discharged British soldier. He carried a bag that held 12 powdered milk cans filled with arsenic, which he would bring to Nuremberg. But as his ship neared Toulon, France, a detachment of British military police came aboard looking for him and 4 other men traveling from Palestine on false documents. In a panic, Kovner threw the bag of arsenic into the sea. So the French police came on board and were like, "Does anybody have 10 million doses of arsenic? Anybody got a few million doses?" And
He's like, no, but there happens to be 85,000 dead fish right here. That
yeah, yeah. And they all enjoyed dolphin meat for weeks. Yeah, so he dumps it like a coke addict with the cops coming. Dumps it overboard. When Kovner's comrades in Europe learned of his arrest and of the loss of the poison, they switched their energies to Plan B. They were like, killing 6 million is just such an effort. Let's just do the smaller one. See, that's the other thing is like getting 10 million doses of arsenic to enough to kill 10 million is so much harder than whatever tiny amount could kill 200 officers. Like, there's no way that these Israeli leaders didn't know. Like,
oh yeah,
they got a little baggie. They're like, this should do it. No, give me 12 milk cans full.
Just who's the guy at the factory? Like, hey, we got an order for 10 million doses of arsenic. The guy says he's got a really bad rat problem. All right, well, get the order. Send him an invoice.
He runs a restaurant. He has 10 million rats. It's awful. So they put their energy towards Plan B, using arsenic they had acquired from the contacts in the former French resistance. A much smaller amount of arsenic. Avengers poisoned thousands of loaves of bread bound for the Langwasser POW camp, which was under the administration of the United States. Some 2,000 SS veterans became ill, and hundreds were hospitalized, but none died.
Oh, they didn't even do it right.
They didn't even kill a one.
Ugh.
Dude, can you imagine the yelling at each other when they found that? I followed the recipe. I told you were putting in too much wheat.
I told you it was not a teaspoon of arsenic. It was a tablespoon, but you didn't listen.
It's not a pinch to taste. It's arsenic. You're not even tasting it.
That'll really get revenge. We just made 200 German officers just have, bad diarrhea or whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's such a weird vengeance because it's like a couple of years later, they killed my whole family, but he spent a night on the toilet he will never forget. So
he'll never eat that bread again.
So having failed to accomplish even a fraction of their violent revenge, they moved back and settled in Palestine. That would become Israel, that would then go on to murder millions of people. I mean, it is in the millions now if you count the initial Nakba, the current Nakba, and everybody murdered in between. And, there are a lot of ways that Israel has done their murdering of Palestinians. It's not just bullets. It's a lot of disease by design. It's a lot of unclean water, which is the number one killer of humans every year. And Israel makes sure that Gaza doesn't have clean water. It's starvation. It's not having the proper medical devices, so that something like breast cancer, which is it's got like a 80% survival rate in the US, or maybe even higher. In Gaza, it's like a 20% survival rate. So it's a lot of murder over a lot of years. And that's called vengeance without any kind of rational thought behind it.
No, none. I mean, it's interesting that in this at the beginning of this story, when you're reading the interview of the guy who's like, yeah, we were basically trying. There was a suicidal aspect to it. We were so deranged and pissed off. Part of us just. Do you think? I'm just asking this in terms of these Zionists are so out of control now. They're so insane out of control. And people are waking up to it so much, like this 18-year-old Israeli kid that's like, I'm not joining the IDF, and he's in jail for 30 days now.
Yeah, I interviewed a father whose kids refused to join the IDF. By the way, those who don't know, everyone has to do 2 years of military service in Israel. His kids refused, and that they usually put him in jail, but they've had to flee the country. So there's like his kids are in Germany now or something. Like, ironically, his kids are in Germany.
Wow. I mean, I wonder, is this because this like rage, this like crazy hellbent, and I'm seeing all these videos come out of Israelis' treatment of Palestinians way before October 7th, where they're just like going like this to, and just awful shit. Like, do you think there's still some of that suicide, like so much self-loathing or self-hatred? Because if you want to wipe someone out, you must have a lot of self-hatred. So that is fueling, like, do you think that deep down, like, and I'm playing like armchair psychologist here, but like that some of them are just like, they know somewhere subconsciously that this is going to bring about the demise of Israel. And so they're just like doubling down on it. I'm trying to get to the psychology of this, and I'm grasping at straws, but
I don't know about self-hatred, but I do believe that the vengeance, the completely irrational vengeance, which we create laws, we create international laws, we create Geneva Conventions, we create all these things to try and rein in this idea, once you've been wronged, that you can just go and murder everyone, or sometimes not even wronged, sometimes just feeling you've been wronged when you haven't. But either way, we create all these laws, and I do believe that this irrational, blind vengeance has been passed down. It's a generational trauma, and in Jewish people, some of them, not all of them. I didn't have anyone in my family, blood related, who lost people in the Holocaust, but my step grandfather, my grandmother's second husband, lost almost his entire family in the Holocaust. He was sent here on a boat when he was 18, not even speaking the language, arrived in New York City without any English and no money. And he was the only one who survived from his family. And, it really is like a generational trauma of just like irrational. And sadly, it's turned so many of them into the monsters that they claim to fight, the monsters that they view as wrong. But it also is a massive amount of propaganda. I mean, the amount of propaganda you have to take in to be an Israeli citizen and be okay with it is like just immense amounts. I went on when I was 26, even though it was the final year. For those who don't know this, anybody who's Jewish, a Jewish American, you can have a free trip to Israel if you're under 26. And the reason is because they want to indoctrinate young Jewish Americans into believing all of their propaganda and lies. I went ahead and went on it when I was 26, even though I knew it was an apartheid state. I knew what Israel's doing was wrong, but I wanted to see the propaganda, honestly, and I wanted to see I wanted to see Israel and for free. So, fuck it, let's do it. So I went, and the levels of propaganda were just unbelievable. I mean, everything from sleep deprivation, where you arrive there, you're jet lagged. They only let you're in a group. They only let you sleep for 2 hours, and then they, send you on a hike. So because the sleep deprived brain is so much more likely to take in all of this garbage. But it is, Israelis are supporting this because they've been brainwashed since day one.
Which is how you get a genocide, how you get it done. I mean, it's like America. We've all been brainwashed and propagandized to believe that we're the best country, and we're just defending ourselves and all these other horrible wars.
I mean, that's how you so many Americans thinking that it's okay that we've killed 6 million people in the war on terror. Literally 6 million. I know that number's come up a lot in this show, but the estimate is that 6 million have been murdered in the war on terror.
And almost $10 trillion. And you'd think we would have cured, like, terrorism is done. We cured it. We fixed it. It's done.
We fixed it. There is no one is afraid anymore.
No, there's no more terrorists.
No more terror or terrorists. No.
All we've done is create more terrorism.
Well, that's what I got.
Happy holidays, everybody. Click, blank screen.
credits roll, and it's just your name and my name. That's it.
Well, on that note, it's probably a good time to tell everybody we're not doing a Patreon today. So
yes, we're taking the holiday off Patreon, but anyone who wants to go over there, you can watch 40 whatever episodes of unlocked content.
yeah, 40, 44, 45 episodes, or almost 50 episodes actually of bonus content at patreon.com. And there's different tiers, but every tier gets all of the content. The higher tiers are just if you want to get merchandise or whatever. So support what we're doing.
And the higher tiers are also if you want me to no longer be eating rat meat under a overpass.
So sign up for the no rat meat tier, guys. And we'll keep doing this Wednesdays at 5 until February when it'll change when I'm in El Salvador. But we'll figure that out as we get closer.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
And I think we're probably due because we haven't had a time change in a while. We've been sticking to this one for a while. After like the spring of last year, we did like a time change like every other day.
Yeah. Yes, but this one has been good to us, so it's time to switch it up.
But first of all, there's Alex Das Libe for supporting our super chat. We appreciate that. Is there any story that doesn't involve poison gas, explosion, or birth defects or cancer that also involves Monsanto? No, there's no such thing. No such thing. Thank you for supporting our show. And since it's our last show of 2023, this has been a really good year. We've, for this show, not for either one of us personally, but really, really good year and a lot of fun.
Dude, I haven't even told you. I just had I've had a TikTok account for a couple of years, but I only started really posting there like a couple of months ago, and just got banned. And,
on TikTok? Oh yeah, I got banned quick
on TikTok, and other people have shown me that when they're banned, you can click on a button that says appeal. I don't even get an appeal.
I can't feel post on TikTok. I know what I got when I started live streaming on TikTok, and that got shut down like
really
week 3 or week 4. They shut that down. So I can still post, but I can't live stream on TikTok. But
I'm fully out. I can't even get into my own account.
Wow. Well, we've got 250 people watching, which is probably our biggest audience of the year, which is cool. So whatever channel you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe button and subscribe to the other guy's channel. And we'll do our first show of 2024. And like I said, I'll be guest hosting the Orange Pill podcast, which is Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert's Bitcoin podcast. I'll be guest hosting that in February down in El Salvador. So, but we'll keep doing government secrets no matter where either one of us is in the world. We will keep doing this show.
It's just going to keep happening, whether they like it or not.
Whether they like it or not, dude.
This is what you get, folks, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely get. So, all right, man. Any end of the year wishes?
Yes, that our Patreon shoots up to $30,000 a month.
Yes.
By the way, folks, I have a new show with Breakthrough News. The episode comes out about every 2 weeks, and the new episode is at the top of leecamp.com, my website. So go over there and check it out. If you're bored right now, give it a go.
And thank you, Alex Das Libe. Lee keeps demonetized lapping Graham at the censorship Olympics. That is true.
Trying to show Graham how it's done.
That's right. And let me see if anyone posted anything on Rockfin. This is Hempcar. Recall Fallujah is worse than Hiroshima. A prominent medical journalist reported. Chomsky said to Z Magazine, it's bigger than WikiLeaks story, bigger than the bomb. DU Dust, the biggest release of radioactive material in the U.S. was on the reservation. The book Yellow Dust covers it. Audio segment on NPR about it. All right. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I think that's probably our show, right?
That's our show. Thanks, man. Hope you have a good New Year.
Yeah, have a great New Year, everybody. Happy holidays, and we will see you next year. This has been
Government Secrets, episode 145. Blowing up Galveston and then crazy trying to put arsenic in bread that didn't work.
All right. Thanks, man. Later.
all right. Take care, everybody.